Hello, everyone. I'm here to represent Central Oregon and our contribution to the state's growth and job creation. Central Oregon, the economy is like a rocket where we're on the side of it still building and it's lifted off. And we need a ton of rocket fuel to keep it going. And that rocket fuel comes in three forms. Primarily, workforce, which is connected to the whole education discussions today. And Khalil's Dear Oregon hit home. Those are the future workers of the future for Central Oregon. So we need many more graduates to go and further their careers. Secondly is workforce housing. Third is infrastructure, which is required for workforce housing. Water, sewer, and roads. Now I have a company called 5 Talent Software, and we're based and founded in Bend, Oregon. What we do is we build enterprise class applications for Fortune 1000 companies across the United States. And we are hungry for very expensive software developers. And we have to import them all. And that'll be one of the points that I'll cover here today. Our company is a great example of the transformation that Oregon, or Central Oregon has in this business ecosystem. We are generating now hundreds of traded sector, new economy companies such as ours. And that's quite different from the past, where it was basically a real estate and construction-based economy. And tourism. Hands for people who've been to Bend, Oregon. That's what I'm talking about. So the rocket fuel for us is talented people. What the problem is, they need a place to stay. And workforce housing, and per Nolan's speech, that is in Bend, Oregon, and Central Oregon in spades. It's extremely difficult to find a reasonable home within an easy commute of your job. But the success, let's talk about the success part of Central Oregon. We are generating a phenomenal amount of jobs and revenue to go with it. And that's due to a unique secret sauce kind of ecosystem, business ecosystem, entrepreneurial ecosystem that we have. And that success is also partly due to the cooperation, a very close cooperation between businesses and support organizations, the cities and counties and the state, along with venture capital money, angel funds, et cetera, that help fuel that. So, talking here, I can point to several studies that show that we're already on the map and radar across the United States. This one from the Milken Institute points to Bend as #1 as far as best performing small metros. #1 in wage growth, in 1 year wage growth. #2 in 1 year job growth. As a matter of fact, Wall Street 24/7 last week rated us #2 in 5-year job growth. And then one near and dear to my heart, #2 in high-tech industries. Population growth. With that comes population. So as you can tell from this graph, this is a PSU study that was done and provided by EDCO. Back in the 90s, we grew about 50%. Now, it's easier when you're small to grow that much. In the 2000s, 30%. 2010 to now, about 18%. And PSU is projecting us to grow another 19% over the next decade. A lot of people coming in. Forbes recognizes this as one of the best places to start a business and to propel a career. Now, if you had said that to us 8 years ago, we would have laughed. It was a very difficult place. You either built it, brought it, or you worked remotely back then. Now, it's a destination for good careers, great careers. And we're at full employment, so we're importing practically everyone. Not just outside of Central Oregon, but outside the state. So we have a lot of inbound people coming in to fulfill the thousands of job openings that we have. But it's an easy sell. Bend is an easy sell as far as lifestyle. Forbes rates us as one of the best places for businesses and careers. What's unique about Central Oregon is you have this combination of weather and recreation, lifestyle rated right up there, right next to work style, that creates a unique environment, along with a collaboration and support network I have never seen anywhere else in my life. And I've worked in a lot of states. Nothing like this exists. Our major challenge, again, is workforce and the housing that goes with it. An average price in Bend in 2012 for a home was $210,000. Today is $450,000, 6 years later. Yeah, that's what many people say when they come in looking for a home. But Entrepreneur Magazine calls us the next best city for entrepreneurship. Again, getting back to that ecosystem that we have built. And it's more attitude than it is about infrastructure. It's about how people are coming into Bend. They're coming in, it used to be scrappy entrepreneurs, and now you can actually come in with a job, but everyone's coming in. It's a very purposeful destination to move to Bend, which is 3.5 hours away from anything else that my wife enjoys, like Nordstrom's. We're living proof that you can have an awesome lifestyle and still have business success. Now, there aren't many places that I know you can have a 10-minute commute, Nolan, a 10-minute commute, have lunch by the river, get on your mountain bike, do a nice mountain bike ride on Phil's Trail, this gigantic trail complex, and then be home for dinner. That is Bend, Oregon. And also part of that culture. So yes, we work smart instead of hard. And that's part of that secret sauce. You know, we don't want burnout, and we want people to actually have a life after 5:30, 6 o'clock, not after 10 o'clock. This collaboration that we're talking about, though, is contagious. Once you have unsolicited support from businesses and from support organizations like EDCO, the Chambers, and many others, Business Oregon, you can't help but jump in and do the same thing. It's contagious. You start making calls to help. I interview someone and find out it's not an exact fit for me. I call 3 or 4 other companies to get that person hired. That's part of that collaboration. I would not have imagined that in Silicon Valley. So we're filled with seasoned, scrappy entrepreneurs, and we're creating a massive number of companies in Central Oregon. 2 times the state average, and 3 times that of Portland per capita. We have a well-formed ecosystem with success rates thanks to expertise of people who have moved into Bend. So those people who retire, and no one ever retires in Bend, retired executives who have cashed out and come in, they have phenomenal expertise, and they're putting it to work in the ecosystem. They're getting on boards, they're advising, they're having coffees, which, by the way, coffee shops in Bend is where 90% of business gets done. We also make essential connections to markets and capital. And again, pointing to our VCs, our angel funds, they're highly collaborative. They work very closely with businesses and the city to make things happen for new companies coming in or spinning up. So here is a slide that shows the various industry clusters that we have in Bend and their contribution. This is from 2016, so this is a little age, but I'll point out high technology, my favorite, 26.5% job growth. And we're maintaining or exceeding that right now. But if you notice, everything except building products, which is really pointing to the construction area, everything else is double digits, 17, 18%, et cetera. This slide would have looked a lot different in 2010 as far as what pie was generating what job growth. As a matter of fact, job growth was probably negative in all the categories. One thing that's not on this slide is quite interesting, is happening for us in Bend. It may be happening for others, in Central Oregon actually in general, and that's the remote workers. Back in, I believe it was 2016, the last study we had, there was 9 0.5% of our workforce works remotely for companies mostly out of Oregon. And today it's probably north of 10% or more. Now, that's an interesting factoid, but what is happening is that we start getting concentrations. We have, Microsoft employees, Amazon employees, we have Workday, et cetera, and the company says, wait, I've reached 8 or 10, maybe I should open an office in Bend. And that's just happened recently with Workday. Now, once you open an office, now you have a destination for workers who want to get out of Silicon Valley or Seattle. And so those are spawning into larger entities in Oregon, in Central Oregon. Here's probably the most vital impact that we've had in recent years, is the opening of the OSU Cascades campus. The first campus in 50 years, which still boggles my mind, that it's the first four-year campus in 50 years in the country. It is an amazing impact on our business ecosystem, primarily because we're hiring every single one of those students out. Matter of fact, the truth is, and I see Becky's there, so I'm going to, Becky, close your ears. We're actually hiring them when they're freshmen as interns. Every single one of them has a job on exit. The demand is so high in Central Oregon. We have 15,000 jobs that we're projecting between now and 2027. Now, the campus can crank out as a certain number of it to alleviate the pressure, but the bottom line is we're importing the rest, which is impacting housing, which is already tight. So the bottom line for us is, per Nolan's slide, housing is critical. And if we can't get employees to move to Bend, we're at full employment, so where else are we going to find them? If we can't get them to move to Bend, then we have to go elsewhere. And that's the truth. Companies like ours, it's basically laptop and internet connection, power and internet. That's all we need. And if we can't get the employees we need, we will move if we have to, or open offices. I opened one in Portland, trying to steal some employees. So this projected gap is probably the largest impact on our growth, on our engine. But what's behind that, these companies right here, what's behind these companies is infrastructure. Things that as a CEO, I thought I would never be talking about: sewer and water and power and roads. But quite honestly, those basic elements for us are absolutely essential for the growth of our companies. Without those, we don't have the workforce housing. Without the workforce housing, we can't get the employees. So exit stage right. These companies here, and if you'll notice some very famous icons up there: Apple, Facebook, Hydro Flask, Sony, etc. But there's also quite a few startups, and it represents a whole bunch of different clusters. It's not just tech. Tech is just one of many industry clusters in Bend, in Central Oregon. Food, outdoor products, aviation, bioscience. I mean, the numbers are all over the place as far as diversity on these industry clusters. In tech alone, by the way, sorry, it's my category, we have 135 tech companies in Bend. So, some of the initiatives to solve this hiring problem, besides importing talent, and OSU Cascades, is to also connect businesses with high school students, to get them into the business world as fast as possible. So we have a very robust internship program that all the chambers got together and are supporting, along with some state orgs, to connect students with businesses. And it's very successful. And then the hope is, some of them will go right into CTE, some will go to COCC for a AA, and several will go into OSU Cascade. So we have pipelines from all three of those to businesses. The second one we brought in is the Apprentice Program. The Apprentice is a program that was brought in from Washington. It was highly successful there. It's an apprenticeship program. So what we do, Five Talent was one of the first to join that, is we sponsor people to go into this program. It's a 40-hour-a-week, 22-week program, intensive. And then we guarantee employment upon graduation. And that hope is another hope for us that we can generate more local workers. And what's also good about that is it's allowing people to re-engineer, re-architect themselves to version 2.0 of their careers. And right now it's computer science, but those categories will expand pretty dramatically over the years. So, what do we need? The bottom line is we need employees. We need highly talented people to join our companies, 15,000 of them over the next 8 years. For them, we need housing. And for housing, we need water, sewer, and roads. So we need heavy investments by the state and any other source we can tap, the federal, and our own efforts to raise funding to build those basic horizontal infrastructure elements. And with that, we'll be able to ride out any economic cycles in the future. Bend is more resilient today thanks to its diversity of industry clusters and the growth paths on each one of those, that the boom-bust cycles of the past, I think, are now the past. Thank you.